you don't know what's going to work. Undertaker on paper is a stupid, stupid gimmick. It's as stupid as a lot of these that we've talked about. It works because, Mark Calloway makes it work. And, the way he performed it, the way it's booked, promoted, utilised, it works. I mean, even Randy Savage, what's his full name? Macho Man Randy Savage. Like, if you break that down as a non-wrestling fan, it's a stupid name when you hear it if you don't.
So is it more about they didn't have the performers to pull off gimmicks?
No, because a lot of those performers went on to be stars in the Attitude Era. It's just, you don't know. So what I'm saying is, a ridiculous gimmick can work. And something that sounds good on paper, like Wail and Mercy, can not work. So you kind of just go with it. And, the Big Boss Man is a good example, I think. He's just a cop. He's just a policeman who wrestles. He's a guy with a job, and he's a wrestler. Now, obviously, that works because, he's keeping law and order in the WWF, so it does make sense. It translates to wrestling. The wrestling dentist, so Isaac Yankem, which in theory, who likes to go to the dentist, right? And that's Vince's...
Stand in front of you.
He is indeed. I'm glad he's on my side. He's... Vince, must have gone to the dentist one day and didn't like it, and it's a right evil dentist, with bad teeth, and it's like, on paper that could potentially work, but it didn't really, for whatever reason. And what they were finding is they were getting more misses than hits in terms of these gimmicks, and they became obsessed with everything's a vocation. We've got a race car driver, we've got a dentist, we've got a plumber, we've got the hockey player, we've got this, and it's like, it's too much. But they did have that kind of stuff before that as well. It's just, it happened to have the right balance of jobs and, characters and large-than-life characters. So,
have I missed any particular terrible
Aldo Montoya.
With a jockstrap in his face?
That was an interesting one. That was a...
Portuguese Man of War?
Portuguese Man of War. Yeah, I mean, that was a very odd one. I don't know what they're trying to achieve with that, really. I mean, Avatar... Al Snow's Avatar, where he's sort of a Hayabusa rip-off. It lasted one show, and then he was against a jobber called Brian Walsh on Raw, and they botched every spot in this 4-minute match. Brian Walsh didn't really sell for him, and then Vince mocked him during the commentary and then took him out of Survivor Series. So, good debut.
Good debut for Big Al. I mean, cause it was weird that in '95 they had Hakushi, who was a great gimmick, and he could have done really good. But it was almost like when they had the ones that worked, they weren't the ones that got pushed as well as the ones that didn't work. It's a strange...
Did any of them really get pushed, though? Did any of the silly gimmicks really get a proper
Jean-Pierre
push?
Lafitte fought Bret Hart over his jacket.
Briefly. And that match is really good in your house.
We should also mention that, So, would you say that Men on a Mission, the babyface team, were they a success, were they a failure, were they in between?
I wouldn't say they were a failure. I think success is pushing it as well, though. Yeah, I'd say they're in between.
Middle of the road.
I think... They were fine. They were a fine mid-card, fun team. The crowd liked them.
It was good.
Yeah, it was fine. They were...
The WrestleMania 10 rap?
I do remember the WrestleMania 10 rap. I'm not going to sing the WrestleMania 10 rap. So if you want to...
It's tempting, but not at Christmas.
No, we don't ruin Christmas. But I mean, it's funny, with those guys we talked about, TL Hopper and the Goon and everything. It's kind of Jim Cornette's fault. Sorry, Jim, but basically what he did is, I think him and Bruce, because Smoky Mountain was closing, right? So he went to Vince and said, look, there's all these guys, instead of just having these jobbers, because we can't keep beating our stars on Raw, because that's when Raw started going head-to-head with Nitro and started giving marquee matches away more and more. And they just didn't have a big enough roster, so Corny was like, look, we've got Bill Irwin and, we've got Dirty White Boy and we've got Tracy Smothers and whoever. Really good workers that can come in, they can put our guys over. Let's give them a bit of a character. So, not have them just be like Dwayne Gill or Barry Hardy. You don't want that. You want them to be proper characters, but they're low end characters who their job is to beat the jobbers but get beat by everyone else. Because then it means more when the other guys beat them. And Vince, obviously being Vince, wanted to make them all characters. And because they're all Southern wrestling, they've got to be ridiculous, embarrassing gimmicks. So it's a shame.
The reason I brought up Men on a Mission is because Men on a Mission are a team, and then they turn Mabel heel. Well, they turn Men on a Mission heel.
Yeah.
They turn Men on a Mission heel on Oscar, and then Mabel wins the King of the Ring in 1995. So it goes Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Mabel.
Then Steve Austin.
And then Steve Austin. So Mabel turns heel. He gets the big SummerSlam title match push. I mean, is this just a case of like he's big and maybe this will work?
If there was a King of the Ring tournament in 1991, I'm fairly certain Earthquake. Sorry, 1990. I'm fairly certain Earthquake would have won it. You know, I think it's the same kind of principle.
Earthquake was a good worker, though.
Yeah, he was. No, he was. But it's the same thing. In Vince's mind, it's the big guy. Yeah. You know, so let's push the big guy. And the big guy against the tall guy.
Do you think...
It's money, pal.
Mabel's one of those ones that, like, when people... Because I stopped watching WWF just after Survivor Season 94, and I started watching again just after WrestleMania 12.
Right.
And I remember a couple of times in 95 picking up the magazine in the shops and just being like...
Yeah.
No. Yeah. But, like, how much of 95... Because we've talked about this and you've kind of talked about how 95's actually got a lot of good stuff on it.
It does.
There's a lot of... And the Raws are really good. I've never seen them. But
really? Right.
Mabel is, like... If people say, why do you hate 95? Mabel's like the poster boy. Do you think if Mabel hadn't won King of the Ring and he hadn't been pushed as much as he was, would 95 not be hated as much? Or do you think 95 was destined just to be the year that everybody points to?
It's bad because the big... shows are bad. So Rumble's got the 30-minute Rumble. Well, it's not quite 30, but it's every minute, and all the people in it are crap apart from Sean and
we talked about it on part one. Look at the difference between the so look at the 92 Rumble roster, then look at the 95 Rumble roster.
It's rough.
It's grim.
Which is why they needed these talent to come in, you know. And yeah, it's making stars is hard, but Sean wins that, and he should have been crowned at WrestleMania. And WrestleMania is really underwhelming, terrible. In fact, I think 11's probably my least favorite WrestleMania. Yeah. And Lawrence Taylor in the main event, and just a bunch of mismatches.
The Nicholas Torturo, Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Well, he had that chess game with Bob Backlund, didn't he? So it's not really a highlight, is it? You know. And then King of the Ring's terrible as well, and so it's like people are just down it. But if you look between that stuff, SummerSlam's great, Survivor Series is great. There's a lot of fun matches actually on the In Your House shows as well, and so a lot of it was fine. I mean, business was obviously in the toilet, and it did bounce back. You know, it did bounce back. 95 in the late 95 nicely set up 96, which was I think was a good year for WWF.
And you mentioned In Your House in 95. They started doing In Your House in May, and
yeah.
We unfortunately didn't get that as a pay-per-view till 14
yeah.
in April of 97. But how crucial was that to the new generation of them going monthly in pay-per-view? Was it a good plan? Was it a bad plan? How different would things have been, do you think, for the new generation era had they not introduced those shows?
I think WWF probably would have gone out of business, to be honest, because In Your House kind of saved them in a way, because obviously they did it because WCW was running near enough monthly at that point. So they're like, well, we've got to compete. And it's like, well, you don't really have the roster size-wise. You don't... It's a bad idea. You're going to oversaturate the market. That's not what happened. You know, what happened is people still bought those shows, and you know they were helping them make money. And then when they put the price up, that's what really turned them around. Because if you remember, like Vince in '97 was sort of saying to Brett, "We can't afford you," but they also put the In Your House price up.
Ground Zero, right? They were put from 1995 to 29.95.
Yeah, and that changed everything because people didn't stop buying them, and in fact, I think the numbers went up a bit. Actually, it's that weird thing, you know. It's like the front row tickets at WrestleMania always sell first, even though it's thousands of pounds. It's just how things are. Like if you have something priced at that price point of it's expensive, so it must be good, you know. And apparently that worked for them, and it did help them turn that around. So I think In Your House in the long run was really its importance gets understated actually.